Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is August 7th, 2018. Hello, my beautiful people out there. We've missed you so much. We appreciate all of the patience that you guys have exercised with our channel. It's been a long journey. Mari and I have been up to our elbows with demolition of houses, moving, packing. I've been fighting a week of internet service issues. Actually, the tech just left our house right before I went live to make sure that we weren't going to have any problems. So keep your fingers crossed, folks. Let's hope that nothing gets interrupted. So far, so good. We are all systems go. And Henrik will be joining us here just in a little bit. I had Henrik scheduled about 4 weeks ago. And unfortunately, we have just we haven't been in a place where we could actually broadcast from any location whatsoever. So even when we went back to Buffalo to grab some more of our stuff, unfortunately, we did not have internet connectivity because I'd started my services at our new location. But with that being said, I really appreciate, before I get started real quick, I want to thank Henrik, Starman, and Rob, and Penelope of our Facebook group. Penelope has been holding up the fort for us on Facebook. She is constantly posting information on what's going on. And I just want to thank her for really just keeping the Facebook thing going for us. And then you got Rob and Henrik and Starman, who have been keeping me updated on things that have been happening while we've been absent. And, you know, the one thing about grand solar minimums, and I've said this in the beginning of our time when we started doing these shows, it's boring. There's not a lot of activity sometimes. And right now we are in that part of our cycle where it's just not a lot of action going on. We got plenty of climate news to talk about. We got some space weather news to talk about. When Henrik joins us, we have always a great conversation with Mr. Henrik from Denmark. But let's go ahead and get started, folks. Our solar wind speeds are sitting at 381.5 kilometers per second with a density of 8.9. Once again, our sun is blank, and we did have some minor activity of sunspots, AR 2717. It was only a 24-hour lived sunspot. We've now had 4 days in a row without a sunspot, giving us 125 days without sunspots. For the year of 2018, that's almost 60% of the time that we haven't seen sunspots. Looking at the KP indices, we're sitting at a 2 right now with a 24-hour max of 3. And this is the coronal hole that NOAA is now watching. It looks like around August 11th, we could see some activity from this, maybe perhaps some increased solar wind speeds, maybe a minor geomagnetic storm. Right now, it has become Earth-facing, so give that solar wind about 3 to 4 days to reach Earth's magnetic field. And as we look at the SDO into motion, right now, no sunspots to speak of, more of the facula, the phenomena that happens on the sun that doesn't quite turn into sunspots. They could change into dark cores, but right now, we are not seeing any indication of that. And taking a look at our TSI, I should say, for July 30th, 2018 was our last reading, was a 1360.6302. Now I can see since we have been absent, the TSI actually has hovered in the 1360 values for quite some time. I remember before we kind of packed it up for a little while, we were flirting with values of 1360.825 and a little bit higher. So, Henrik, if you're listening, keep trying. Okay. My producer, Mari, is going to try to get the link for us here, so bear with us. While we're waiting on Henrik, I got some headlines I wanted to talk about real quick. North America's first EF4 tornado of the year strikes Manitoba, Canada. Powerful EF4 ripped through parts of Canada, province of Manitoba, on Friday, August 3rd, 2018, making it North America's strongest tornado so far 2018. The twister left a trail of destruction that killed a 77-year-old man. There was one fatality. Taking a look at some of the photographs here and some of the video. EF4. It's kind of tornado action we see in Kansas and Alabama and Mississippi during the spring and early summer months. So what's that? Hold on a second, folks. Bear with me real quick. I'm trying to give the producer a hand real quick. Here's some more images from that tornado in Canada here. The damage, well, that's what you'd expect from an EF4 tornado. They had winds as consistent as 90 miles per hour as well. Taking a look at all the damage. Of course, trailer parks are the worst place to be for tornadoes. Again, the damage survey found a small farmhouse was destroyed. The 77-year-old man lived there as well, and two other cabins on one shore of the Lake Manitoba and the other just to the west. This is Canada's first tornado-related death since 2011. I found a really interesting stat, too, at the bottom of this. Just to give you perspective here, the United States usually is the world leader when it comes to tornadic activity, with the average of over 1,000 tornadoes recorded each year. Canada is a distant second with around 100 per year. So just kind of gives you the sense that here in the United States, X marks the spot when it comes to tornadoes. And taking a look at softball-sized hail hits Colorado Springs. 8 people injured, extensive damage to more than 400 cars and homes. Now, this was near a zoo, by the way, as well. It says here, a violent thunderstorm moved through parts of Colorado on Monday afternoon, August 6, 2018, dropping very large hail and heavy rainfall. The National Weather Service said the storm moved through Fountain Security and Falcon with wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour. The largest hailstones, nearly the size of softballs, were recorded near Colorado Springs. I've heard Colorado Springs in the news way too much this year for hail and other related severe weather. One of the worst affected areas, there was 8 people that were injured that were taken to the hospital due to hail-related injuries. Cheyenne Mountain High School was an emergency center set up. Almost 400 cars, like we said earlier, were in the parking lot. They were damaged. Also, officials in that area said that the city had witnessed extreme damage. Take a look at some of these cars here. These are now totaled. Trust you on that, folks. Working in the hail business, the insurance claims, cars like this, this would be a total loss. There's a lot of things on this that you're just better off buying a new car with. Check out this guy's back from getting pelted in the back with a piece of hail. Now, I'm not sure about this middle piece. That could be a boil, but we do see a couple other giant red marks. As you can imagine, how painful that must be to get nailed in the back by a piece of hail that's fallen thousands of feet up in the sky. And yeah, let's show everybody this real quick. Just kind of give you a lot of hail just smashing to the ground. This is not the softball size hail. This is marble size. No big deal here. I think this is where we had the, yeah, look at this. Great video content, but look at how this is bouncing around, folks. Reminds me of the cat video where the old lady comes out to feed the cats and starts sprinkling food on the ground, and the cats just start jumping around like it's a giant mosh pit. Well, that's what it looks like right here for this hail. There is clearly baseball-sized hail falling at that point. And people who are filming this, I mean, that Hyundai, the black Hyundai right here, you could see where the hail is just piercing the back window of this car. Check this out. You don't see this too often. That's that little hole right here where my cursor is. Now, they're claiming that's from hail damage. I'm looking around and I see these little pebble-sized hail pieces. So I'm not so sure how much I'm going to believe that one. I guess CSFDPO. I'm not calling you a liar, but just looks a little weird. Very small hail to cause a break like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. And here is a comparison of the softball size softball hail with an actual softball. I say that's pretty close. And let's show another video here real quick as I hear our friend from Denmark, the Danish Grand Solar Minimum channel. Jeez. You know,
Hello.
Henrik, we've been absent for a while, but when you see footage like this, I mean, how many times have we seen this kind of footage in Colorado this year alone, not counting other places throughout our country and the world as well? But first, before we even get into that, how the hell are you doing, sir?
Oh, don't sir me, sir. I'm doing very good, thank you.
Don't sir
Well,
me.
I'm sweating. I hate the weather in the nighttime right now. It's like 71.24 Fahrenheit. In the nighttime, it's 3 o'clock. So that's hot in Denmark.
Well, and we could get right to that article since we're talking about Denmark. Thank you for that link, by the way, the Breitbart one. And I was reading a little bit about that. And what's crazy about this article, Henrik, is you're right. I mean, it's hot right there. You guys are scorching. There is a ferocious heat wave coming through. And I like how this article goes into, oh, the cows are dying of thirst in Switzerland. Fires are gobbling up timber in Sweden. The majestic Dachshund Glacier is melting in Austria. London stores are running out of fans and air conditioners. Greenland's iceberg may break off into a large piece that could trigger a tsunami that destroys settlements on shore. But the one thing I really enjoyed about this article, forget about all the whining and the making fun of people. Check this out, guys. And Henrik, I'm confident this is why you guys are so hot over there right now. It makes sense because we are sharing this right now. Me and you, here in upstate New York, we are in the 90s. And, people that live here in the Northeast, a lot of the houses in this area have window air conditioners. They don't have central air and heating here because it doesn't normally get this hot all the time. But ironically, what this article is showing us is exactly what we're experiencing. You see the water temperatures right now in the Atlantic, the mid-Atlantic, are the warmest in the Atlantic right now, hands down. And that's obviously apparent here in the Northeast, and it's apparent over there in London and then Europe and Spain and Denmark, other areas that are experiencing these ocean temperatures that are probably the warmest, if not the hottest temperatures on the planet right now, especially in the Atlantic Ocean. So when you sent me this link, I read it. More of the same, alarmists trying to ring the bell, trying to freak out about it's hot here, it's got to be hot everywhere else. Global warming, this is what's going to happen, folks. This is the future of summers. I mean, Henrik, you've been telling me on the side that everyone that you're around in your town is doing the same thing, that this is just the beginning of global warming.
Oh yeah, and the newspaper too. It's a paradox in the newspaper. It's so crazy. All the time you can read about. Now this summer this will be the norm, not only in Denmark but in the whole Europe. It will get so hot every year, heat wave after heat wave. Well, excuse me, but if you look at all the heat record in Denmark, going back to 1888, then you can see that in August 1975 we had 97.52 Fahrenheit, and they was afraid of that record was going to be broken tomorrow, because tomorrow we will have between 80 and 95 Fahrenheit, but they are already telling now that record would not be broken. And then again, we had a record in 1947, we had one in 1941, one in 1906, and one heat record in 1892. But if you look at those records, the following years were not hot. And next year is not going to be the same. No. I can assure, that's what I think.
Well, I think you and I and a lot of others share that thought. I was talking to somebody today in a comment section on one of those fraudster channels that talk about global warming is real, and you know, I've seen some evidence that we've talked about grand solar minimum where people thought we were in the grand solar minimum. Now, that's still up for debate. A lot of folks are really thinking that we're going to go through one more 11-year cycle. And then in 2030, that's when the real plunge begins. But now, I'm not saying that we're going to get away without experiencing colder winters from now until 2030. That's not what I'm saying. Solar cycle 25 is still predicted to be weaker than 24. And with that being said, if we're going to have a weaker solar cycle, we're going to see this continuation of cosmic ray influx. We're going to see this continuation of the jet stream changing patterns. We're going to see grow seasons still continue to be all out of whack. And, you know, we had a comment about the corn the other day, how it's maturing way too early. And it's not even close to where normal height should be on. I'm not saying everywhere is like that, but we saw certain locations where the corn was maybe more than 3 or 4 feet tall, already ready to be picked, and a lot of the upper parts of the stalk were already dying and turning brown. So, yeah. I'm not dismissing a minimum type of climate change to happen. I'm just saying I think there is a possibility that we do see another normal solar cycle, but still much deeper minimum and a weaker cycle than we saw in 24, which at the end we all know became very weak. In fact, they said solar cycle 24 was the weakest we've had in over 150 years. So what's that say about 25? If it's going to be worse than 24.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying all the time, and that's what I still think. But right now, I'm very pissed, I have to say, because there's a vibe all over the world, almost. It seems like, about the heat, and it's like, they are writing everyone, oh my God, it's the warmest ever, ever. But it's not, you remember in 1911, there was a heat wave that was so deadly that it drove people insane. The July 1911 heat wave killed thousands of New Englanders and sent many of people to the brink of madness. During the 11 hellish days, as they call it, horses were dropped dead in the street. Baby did not wake up from their naps. It was a disaster.
Wow.
On July the 4th, temperatures hit 103 in Portland, 104 in Boston. And that's a record that is still standing, 105 in Vernon. And I can go on, at
Right.
least 200 was dead from that drought in 11 days. It had never happened before. Fuck you.
Pretty much. And,
Yeah.
here's the comparison they make. And I like the wording. It says, it says, as you can see, very clear in these charts, courtesy of Joe Bastardi, the large band of cold water in Atlantic, a vast surface area representing 1/6 of the world's ocean, has left a skinny band of warm water to the north, which is causing Europe's heat wave. Now look at the 500 millibar ridge has developed in relation to the skinny band of warmer than average sea surface temperatures. Huh. And then he puts, wow, isn't that amazing? So let me get this straight. We are getting attribution to humans when the cooling of the Atlantic, which has been real and spectacular, leaves a skinny band of warm water, the response to which puts ridge over Europe and makes it hot. The widespread cooling 1/6 of the world's oceans in the North Atlantic, which should be raising eyebrows as far as implications on patterns opposite the warming missive, is turned around and blamed on CO2 and climate change because the result is a heat wave in Europe. And, Henrik, I'm with you on the F-bomb there, because this is, I told someone who left a comment the other day talking about how hot it is everywhere. We're scorching, we're cooking, we're not cooling, you guys are cracks. That's like me talking about global cooling and freaking out in the middle of January when we're having a blizzard in northeastern United States. I mean, that to me is just hogwash. You'll never catch us over here during the wintertime in the northern hemisphere talking about, see, I told you it was going to get cold. Of course it gets cold. It gets cold every winter. It gets hot every summer. But there are certain things that we need to be looking for. And thanks to people like the Starman, who kind of got me into the North Atlantic sea surface temperature, and Rob as well, he gives me tons of information about our oceans and AOMOC. Just, I can't, and I don't know if you listened earlier or not, Henrik, but I thanked you and Rob and Starman basically for kind of being our behind the scenes. You guys updated us the most you and Penelope from their Facebook group. You guys did an amazing job in our absence. I've watched you guys post videos on your own. David's very active on Twitter. Rob has been very active behind the scenes with our email accounts and our GSM chat. And then, of course, you, Henrik, where you have your own channel and you produce your own content, and you're also keeping people up to date about what's going on with us. So we're just thrilled we have supporters like you guys and people like you who contribute to this channel's success every day.
Well, no problem. And now you are saying that, then I just have to say shortly, that I know that the weather is crazy, and it was crazy the year before, but we also got to remember and never forget that from each year they are going, and a lot of more people are getting mobile phones in certain areas, that we have not heard from before. And nowadays, everybody can comment about the weather in some location we have never heard before. You could not do that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The longer back you go, the less you did get information about the weather. Today, you are doing one click on YouTube or on Facebook, and you got the weather bombarded from every corner of the world.
Great point.
So of course, we will hear more and more about the weather. That's all natural.
Well, that's a great point. You're right. 5-10 years ago, we didn't have people busting out their cell phone every time a rainbow popped up in the sky like you do now. So,
exactly.
Yeah, we're going to hear more and more about it, cold or hot. But that is a very good point. The technology that we have right now really makes it easier than ever to report right there on the spot, no matter who you are, whether you're an amateur or a professional or someone who's just a weather enthusiast. You have that technology in your hands to just start recording and make your own little blogs. But again, I've seen so much global warmist hype this summer, and I know folks here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel, myself, Starman, I know you've said it. We've all said that this winter, with the way things were shaping up, it would not surprise us to see a hot summer in certain regions. And that's what's happening this year. And as I concluded that article that you had sent, basically it's enjoy your summer. Stop worrying about the acceleration of man-made global warming. These news medias, I'm telling you, some of them are just out there to raise fear and to bring down your mentality from a positive vibe to a negative vibe, especially when you follow a channel like ours and others that are like-minded, and you know the truth about the climate, and you know what drives the climate, and you know what CO2 actually does. But I've had some very interesting debates with certain folks that are involved with the global warming side of things. And I tell you something, Henrik, the most common thing that I've noticed when you engage yourself in a discussion, and you guys can check my comment history, I try to represent this channel without name calling or calling anybody stupid. It's hard sometimes because some of these people really are stupid. But if you look at some of these comments from some of these AGW people, they are making it personal. They're insulting you. They call you names. They cuss at you. They tell you how non-intelligent you are. But yet, whenever you get into a debate about global warming or the planet is man-made climate change, none of these people have anything useful to say or anything that proves their theory except for ad hominem attacks and name calling. And that's it. They don't have, just like a paper that I was going to go over tonight as well. There's no scientific evidence. It's just all alarmism.
Yeah, and everybody have totally luckily forget that we went straight from winter to summer this year. We had no spring. Oh, we have forgot that already, And they also forgot to mention in all the papers that we had a record cold for the planet this April, in Antarctica, 98.6 degrees minus C. I mean, that is very cold.
That
you know what? And I know that is only for a certain area that is so cold. But you know what? All those heat records when, oh, it's now we have made a new record. Yeah, but it's only in a certain point, and it's for 20 minutes in a local area in the part of the country.
There you go. That's exactly right. And that cold record that you were talking about in Antarctica, listen, folks, that's almost 150 degrees Fahrenheit below zero. Okay. Fuel lines freeze at that temperature.
Yeah, and dry ice, 78.
Yeah. Yeah. So to me, I think there's more danger in extreme cold weather and now there's just as much danger in heat. You get heat strokes. I believe I might have suffered something, dehydration, heat exhaustion on Monday. As I was telling everyone earlier, Mari and I, we really pulled the impossible out in the last 48 hours, moving an entire house from Buffalo all the way, well, house full of stuff, to Buffalo, to 5 hours away from Buffalo, unloaded the truck and had everything put away in 48 hours. We're still dealing with sorting, but I unloaded the truck. It was 91 degrees out that day. It took me 2.5 hours, and I did not feel well after that.
Oh my gosh.
Heat just had me exhausted.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, all right, back to a couple more articles here. I got to be honest with you. I wasn't trying to be too on cue tonight because it's been so long since we've done a show, and I'm just happy that I'm having a conversation with Henrik right now. So just bear with me, folks. I'm trying to get through this show. I just it feels really good to get back on here. We've been doing a lot of other things that normal people do, and not that other people don't have the problems that we've had, but it does feel nice to get back into this reporting, that's for sure. But 2 killed, 320 evacuated after a mudslide that swept through Val Ferret in northern Italy. It says here the slide took place after heavy rain in Val Ferret area close to the Swiss border. Significantly increased levels from the Magara River brings about 25,000 meters, that's 882,000 feet of material downstream. The front of the slide was around 700 meters. According to the initial estimates, it will take up to 10 days to clear the riverbed. The casualties were in one of several cars swept away close to the town of, Plainpensue. I'm pretty sure I butchered that one. But at a certain point, the street disappeared. You couldn't make anything out anymore. You feel like an act overwhelmed by a mountain. So let's see if we can get some footage here to play for us. I always have issues. Here we go. Thanks to this YouTuber here showing us not a lot of action in this, but you can see the flow starting to pick up here towards the end of this video. Let's move it along, see if we have any more. Nope, that's it. So we'll keep our eyes on that. It does sound like a very rural area. It wasn't a highly populated area that was impacted, but still, when you see a couple people were killed and 320 were evacuated, the damage was serious enough to cause concern for that. And Hurricane Hector, it's been a slow 2018 hurricane season. And, what kills me the most about some of these hurricane fanatics out there is, and I'm not going to name any names because one of the channels I really, really like, but they act surprised during the part of the summer where it's supposed to be quiet anyway. And look, I'm an amateur. I report. I'm not an expert PhD scientist, but just by doing this topic, I've learned that if you don't have certain temperatures in the Atlantic Ocean, you're not going to see hurricanes. And just like the map that we showed here earlier, look at this. Look at the sea surface temperatures right now. How cold we are. They're unchanged in certain parts of the Atlantic. Right off of Africa, very cold. Of course, the North Atlantic, and I'll show you that real fast too. Here is the North Atlantic. I've been following that too, and it continues to amaze me how we continue to redefine the bottom of this anomaly right now, and we've seen it as low as 1.2 degrees Celsius under the baseline. Now, right now, it's increased up to 0.902. But guys, I mean, this anomaly, this temperature is staying right around a degree below baseline, and it's August 7th, and there's still no sign of water warming up above baseline. When we look at the El Nino section here, we are at a 0.231. Now, to be eligible for El Nino officially, we need to have that value up somewhere at 0.25. Again, we're picking hairs here. I get that. We're almost at that rate. But if you look at this graph, you'll notice as we were on the inclination, now things are starting to round off, and it looks like this might be going down once again. So I keep seeing NOAA. I think they're being a little aggressive with they're forecasting a 70% chance of El Nino for us. And I'm just watching this. We've seen, in June, how high that temperature got, but we have seen a significant drop in sea surface temperatures since, I think the beginning of July. So we'll continue to monitor that. And while we're looking at some of these sea surface temperatures, here's a Caribbean below baseline. Once again, very erratic pattern for them. The MDR, Atlantic MDR, again, it almost touched the baseline, and then it dropped way below baseline at a full degree below. And right now we are on the rise at 0.313, but we're in August heading into the peak of hurricane season, which is right around September. And I just don't see it right yet. We may get a couple of developments in the Atlantic, but I don't see anything that screams, especially when you look at this is the damning evidence right here, folks. This area where it's green, that's a very important area for development for hurricanes. All right. And when you have temperatures that are that far below baseline, I don't understand why some of these hurricane experts are surprised to see that we are quiet. Now, they might be surprised to see how low these temperatures are, and they're probably scratching their heads. Why are we seeing such record cold weather in this area? But I wanted to touch base real quick on Hector. It remains a category 4, but they're saying it's supposed to weaken, and this will cross just south of the Big Island in Hawaii. So only thing that we're really looking at is a swell from this system, increased waves, and some increased wind with this as well. Hurricane force winds extend about 30 miles from the center. We're looking at this right here. It's possible we could see some breezy conditions for the Big Island, but as of right now, it looks like that this storm is going to stay away from Hawaii, which, by the way, you talk about mainstream media, Henrik, we don't even hear about Kilauea anymore. It's almost like Kilauea just went away all of a sudden.
Yeah, but it didn't.
No. And I've mentioned this before too. We have seen this kind of event go on for many years. The last time we had a big event at Kilauea was from 1969 to 1974. Does that mean we're going to have 5 years of eruption? No. But Kilauea is known to do this. So I can only imagine.
I wrote the other day, the other day that a large part of the park they have there, the natural resort or what you call it, they can never ever return.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's changing everything. And that's the thing.
Of course they can return, but they are not living in 500 years or so, but, but there's too much lava.
Why are they talking about that? I'd love to see a mainstream article out there talking about the parts of Hawaii that are being forever changed because of something natural.
Yeah.
Record August rain and heavy hail hit Adelia as cold front moves through South Australia. And we had hailstorms in Colorado. We're talking about heavy rain in areas here in Australia. 2.8 inches fell in Lobethal, 2.48 in Bridgewater, 1.96 in Bel Air, and 90, almost an inch in Adelaide. I believe that's how you say that. And, we see more flood. We see these heat waves. And then some of these tabloid papers like to call it what it's not and call it snow. Just like I've seen several articles for this one right here in Italy. I've seen a couple, I think, on the UK Express claiming that they had a heat wave and then a sharp drop in temperature that left a snowstorm. That's not snow, folks. That is hail. And let's see if this, yeah, I mean,
But that is a lot of hail.
that's a crap ton of hail.
Was it about the 30 centimeters I wrote somewhere?
Yeah. But this is the crazy part, folks. And this is part of the grand solar minimum. This is what's going to kill people. The temperature dropped from 35 degrees Celsius all the way to 12 degrees Celsius. That's a 42-degree temperature drop in just minutes.
Yeah, that's insane.
So, when you're 95 degrees Fahrenheit 1 minute and 53 degrees Fahrenheit 15 minutes later, that feels like a winter coat. That's not refreshing. To me, that's frightening, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's
it's like in Denmark tomorrow we're gonna have that about 95 Fahrenheit, and then on a Saturday we're gonna have between 60 and 68 Fahrenheit.
Wow. So that's a huge drop.
Yes, you can say that.
That's gonna feel good. I mean,
yes, very good. I'm out playing with my dogs every time it's raining.
You're like, that's how my mother was. Whenever it was really hot in the summertime, my mom would go out and put on a bathing suit and shower in a downpour. And no, we weren't poor and couldn't afford water. That wasn't the case. My mom just loved it when it poured down rain, and she couldn't run to her bathing suit fast enough and would literally wash her hair in the rain and almost start gardening, like picking weeds. I'm like, Mom, you just bathed yourself and now you're picking weeds. So, but there's people out there who prefer when it's as hot as, especially Henrik, it feels like you've been saying it's been hot since February up there. I mean, how long has it been hot in your region?
Oh my God, I don't even remember.
It's like
because
every day it feels like.
Yeah, but it's up and down. It's not. Maybe it's because I'm getting old. I don't know, but I'm not. What? I'm not so good at the heat. I must admit that. I'm sorry. I'm a guy to the cold. And it's a funny thing about Denmark and Vikings, because every time there's something about the weather and you are freezing, people always say, "Why are you not a Viking?" And then why do you say that? It was a lot hotter here when the Viking were here.
Right. And that's what I love that too. And a lot of folks don't realize that. And
No.
and I think Mari and I are going to start a new research branch for our studies. And I think we're going to start comparing certain heat waves with certain minimums and certain solar cycles, because there are many factors on what happens during a solar minimum and a grand solar minimum. And I think a lot of folks still get that those two things confused a lot. Speaking about hot, I read this article, Hothouse Earth, an extremely dodgy preposition. No new science, no new data, no new scenario, constantly no new cause for panic. And a lot like the article that you shared with me, this article here on What's Up With That is saying the same thing. These people are giving presentations on, we're going to be hot like this from here to come on out next summer or the summer after that, but they don't offer any scientific claim, any scientific information or data that would back that up. Now, you say in your papers up there in Denmark, they talk a lot about the heat. Do you get a lot of alarmist articles in your newspaper, or do they actually try to throw in some real climate data to go in with their scare, or are they just completely ignorant altogether?
I have only seen one article by a Danish professor who was saying that this heat wave was not extraordinary. It was a coincidence of a lot of things, the jet stream and a lot of other things, of course. He was the most normal, but he was saying in a quite easy way, that it was a little kick for the global warming, but he was saying it in a way between the lines, like he was not really believing in the global warming, I think. But all the others, oh no, it's panic, it's from now on, it's there's no way back, and we have talked about this before with Al Gore, and the snow was supposed to disappear many times, and I just want to say, I actually have a link for 3,100 ski resorts around the world, and if you will, I can give you the link. I have been between, there is a lot of snow in the world, I have to say.
Yeah, a lot more than what mainstream media wants to talk about. And
Oh yes, and a lot of those ski resorts have longer opened. Some of them have not even been closed this year because there's a lot of snow. There have been longer seasons, so they are so happy. You don't hear about that?
no. And I want to highlight something real quick out of this article here, because this is what kind of caught my attention with this. But he says there is nothing wrong with presenting an extreme scenario in order to highlight possibilities and to stimulate research. But as far as presenting it to the public and as far as reporting it by the news media, it is essential to put it into the context of scientific facts and research. The vast majority of climate scientists are not predicting a hothouse Earth. This provocative paper contradicts the scientific state of climate research. If it is a warning, then it should not be presented as a prediction. It does not warrant all the lurid headlines. And he's absolutely right about this. There is nothing wrong with providing a worst case scenario type conversation. But until you have the facts and the data to back it up, don't get on mainstream media and put out these alarming headline stories that make you think, oh, when you see the words hothouse Earth, what's the first thing that comes to mind? CO2, greenhouse gas. Oh, that's what they're talking about. It's predictive programming is what the mainstream media is trying to do. The more they pound in man-made climate change, the more they pound in CO2 is warming the planet, the more of your mainstream people who don't really exercise critical thinking are just going to fall for it and not even bother researching it because they hear it so much. They hear it from so many news outlets, and they look at people like us, like you guys are crazy climate deniers. So
yeah, but you know what? I think we will have a winter this winter that will spank their asses so cold, so they will think twice, I mean it, I really hope we will have a winter that will spank their asses.
Well, and for this comment right here, hothouse Earth, it made me laugh, because what are they going to say next winter when we are shattering cold records? I mean, we shattered cold and snow records all year in 17 and 18. What's 18 and 19 going to be like if we continue to follow the trend that we've experienced? And they say now that your cool summers in the Arctic and warm winters in the Arctic will lead to more snow in other regions. So just keep that in mind, folks. All you people out there that are getting excited about the Arctic melting glaciers, let me tell you, it's bad news when it stays as cool as it is in the North Atlantic during the summer months. And it's going to be even worse news for us in the wintertime, especially for folks here in Canada and Northeast United States, and of course the western part of the UK, and folks in the northern regions. That's where I'm worried. I think the last 2 years in Europe has gotten clobbered by winter, snow and cold. UK, Italy, Switzerland, Denmark, you name it. Anywhere in that region has seen their share of some serious cold and some serious snow. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but these storms are going to get more frequent. This cold weather is going to get more frequent. Our growing seasons are going to become even more erratic than what they are right now. And I'm telling you, there's got to be some confusion right now to some of these farmers who follow the mainstream media and just are scratching their heads like, well, if it was warming, then why are my crops failing? And like you mentioned earlier, April was a cold month all over the United States. Not enough headlines, not enough coverage for that. But of course, they're going to talk about the heat wave in Europe when there is some of the warmest waters in the Atlantic Ocean right now in that same region that we're talking about heat wave. So, articles like I showed here on What's Up With That, I hope people understand that this is We just try to put this information in front of you. You can connect the dots. You figure it out. I think Breitbart did a good job. Henrik, you did an excellent article bringing it to my attention. But this map shows it as for what it is. Here is the ocean temperatures, and then here is the actual temperatures, air temperatures. So it's lining up. We're seeing that heat wave because of the hotter ocean temperatures, obviously. And Greenland, Arctic, guys, and that's another thing. There's no ice melting up north right now except for what normally melts at this time of the year. We are still experiencing record growth of sea ice up there, but yet I keep hearing about how everything's melting so fast.
Yeah, the brains of some people, I think.
Well, one of them is he's up north in Canada, Mr. Fraud Beckwith, and I finally learned this guy. I think he's just a shit stirrer. I think he likes to get people like me and others just fired up. He gets clicks and views because of people like me who actually answer some of his questions in the comment section. And then that comment thread turns into something that might have only had 60 comments. It turns into 400 comments because, again, the AGW crowd is not asking questions about grand solar minimum. They're too busy calling people names and all that good stuff. So I wanted to take it our national radar here in the lower 48. We've had some shower activity moving across the northeast here in New York. We saw some brief rain showers. It didn't do anything as far as making anything cooler. It's been hotter than dog balls here in the northeast, and it's supposed to stay that way through Thursday. Now, we do have some showers and thunderstorms running through Ohio right now. They have exited. They are heading into West Virginia, parts of southwest Pennsylvania, getting ready to see some of these heavier storms. Now, we have lost the heat of the day, so this line of thunderstorms here that's heading out of Ohio should continue to weaken. So I don't expect to see any kind of torrential downpours or anything like that. Even here in Missouri and Arkansas and Nebraska, Oklahoma, that region, some strong thunderstorms, heavy downpours expected. But right now, at last check, we are not in the areas for any kind of tornadoes or anything like that. But we will keep our eyes. Some more severe weather possible here in Colorado. We see a severe thunderstorm watch going on right here. Let's see what county that is. If I can get it to zoom in anymore, it won't let me. So this is near just outside of Fort Morgan. Also near Goodland, Kansas, just west of Goodland, Kansas in Colorado. There is a severe thunderstorm heading in that direction. So we'll see if that holds together as it enters into the far west part of Kansas. And other than that, it is pretty quiet when it comes to weather. I'll take a quick run here with the GFS, and if anything, we've got a lot of moisture in the same areas that I've talked about all year long. We've got moisture in the south, the east coast, and the northeast. Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania. We'll continue to see nonstop shower activity, as Colorado also will go through bouts of up and down severe thunderstorms and regular rain showers. But other than that, guys, looks like a pretty wet pattern to August will continue. I do want to see what their opinion is on the temperatures for the month of August, because with all that moisture, if it's humid, that means the dog days of summer are nowhere near over. And looking at this future cast here on the temps, we're still seeing temperatures reaching into the mid 80s, but by mid-August, oh boy, I am so glad I live in the Northeast. I feel sorry for you folks that live in the Central Plains in the South and Texas, Arizona. Sorry about your luck. But it does look like that we are going to see some relief here in the Northeast. Not this week. We see temperatures stay in the mid 80s throughout the rest of this week into the weekend. And I think by early next week is when the Northeast will start to see, look, I'm already seeing 70s for highs, another 80-degree day. And then right here on Friday the 17th, we start seeing temperatures in the low 50s and upper 40s for nighttime lows as we creep back up into the lower 80s by the end of this run here, which I think is on the 21st of August. So some indication that the northeastern part of the United States will begin to start cooling a little bit and getting ready for its fall. So far, like you said earlier, Henrik, it felt like we went from winter straight into summer. And now let's hope for our sakes, because I tell you, it's been a hot summer up here. But let's hope that we start to see some relief. And if I'm looking at this GFS forecast run here by the 23rd of August, a lot of the northern part of the United States and most of the southern part of Canada, the southeast part, we're looking at temperatures in the low 50s and upper 40s for nighttime lows. So I bet you guys would probably enjoy some temperatures like that after the heat. Is there any end in sight to your heat wave?
No, not as I can see. Well, it will go down after the heat tomorrow. Then the temperature will fall to between 60 and mid 70s, and then it would fall a little again, and we will have, luckily, I hope, some rain, but we will have some more wind the next days, and I'm especially very, very welcome the wind, because I have some very special plants in my garden who need some wind, you know. And I'm not talking about the strawberries I only could eat for 4 days this year, and a lot of other people I've been talking about also have the strawberries for between 4 and 7 days, because the heat was just breaking everything with the strawberries, you know. So you come out one day and you have the tastiest strawberry, and the next day they were just like rotten, you know. It was so weird.
Well, I'm looking at the end of this GFS temperature run, and for most of the parts of Europe that are experiencing this scorcher of a heat wave right now, you guys will start regulating out anywhere from 7 degrees Celsius to 18 degrees Celsius for high temperatures. And as we get closer to the end of August, the yellow and green shades are very dominant in the region. So good news, summer is almost over here in the United States. We are 31 days away from the NFL kickoff, which means we will start to see some fall-like weather appearing very soon. Fall is my favorite season of the year. It's the only time we could really get away with jeans and a hoodie and not have to worry about jackets. Although I am worried this year we will see an early winter than we did last year. And I mean, flakes. I'm calling it right now, folks. Flakes are going to be flying here in New York by mid-October. You heard it here first on the Grand Solar Minimum channel.
Oh, you're so funny.
I'm going to check in real quick with Mari here. She's been manning the chat for us, and I'm sure she wants to say hello to Henrik.
Hello, Henrik, and everyone listening, all our wonderful viewers. It's been some time.
Hello, Mari.
Hi, Henrik. We really missed you.
Yeah, likewise.
So, Jake,
Uh-oh.
Rob asked me a question when you were delivering the news about how hot it was. How hot was it, Jake?
It's hot as dog balls out there.
How do you know? How hot? Okay. Let me just gain my composure. I'm sorry. I had to ask that. Leave it to Rob to ask how you know about that. Anyway, another question, Jake. They're like, Jake and Mari, you're moving? Where'd you move to? Like Tahiti or something? Like somewhere warm, right? No, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't move somewhere warm. Everyone thinks we're crazy, Jake. You're moving to the Adirondack Mountains? What's wrong with you? So the thing is, people, everyone has a path in life and choices to make. And we know, as the weather changes and all that, it might not be optimal in the future. No one really knows what's going to happen. But the fact is, I have a house that I need to restore. It's my dad's house. He passed away in 2013. And we have completely gutted it out, and it's a huge project for us, but it's a step that we need to take because it's just along our path. So there is a lot of criticism to myself and Jake for living in Buffalo or living, in the Adirondacks. You got to be sympathetic to other people. People can't just up and move when they want to, when they please. What do you have something to say about that, Jake? Because I think that's pretty important. Like, you know, with this global cooling agenda, everyone thinks we should all just pack up and move to the tropics.
Well, you can't get mad at these folks because the reason why they think this is because you've got other grand solar minimum topic channels out there who are beating that fear porn drum, telling you've got to go somewhere warm, you've got to go somewhere where the climate's this, the climate's that. This so far, what we've learned about grand solar minimum, everything's so regional. And you know, when you talk about us moving up to the Adirondacks, yeah, it's going to get cold, it's going to snow a lot, but one of my favorite things about this house is it's got a fireplace. And the thing that we didn't have in Buffalo, if we had a big snowstorm and the power goes out, how are we going to stay warm? We're talking about making these candles that have a history of igniting into fires and burning down houseboats and stuff because people don't construct these properly. Well, now, if we got to be in a cold region, at least we have a fireplace and a crap ton of firewood to burn. So, I mean, there you've got your pros and your cons about moving upstate New York, but I feel a little bit better about being able to stay warm. Mari and I have our prepping gear. We are constantly reading up on how to garden, how to grow our own food. We're working on things right now to start working on distilling our own water. And plus we live in an area where, let's just say that, let's follow along that fear porn narrative that we have an EMP from a solar flare from the sun. We live near Saratoga Springs, some of the best drinking water in the entire planet. So I kind of look at this as a benefit for Mari and I because we know how to do certain things. This doesn't scare us. This doesn't worry us. This makes us feel more confident in our ability to survive and adapt into these changing events that will be happening. But like I said, the biggest thing is how self-sufficient we're going to be to keep ourselves warm, because the way this house is built, the way the fireplace heat is going to be given off throughout the entire house. Again, I feel good about the move because of the property where it's located, the gorgeous scenery. And we will be doing more live feed videos where we can show you guys what we're looking at. I'm sure this winter we're going to see some historic stuff as well, snowfall wise, and some beautiful mountain scenes that are covered in snow. But, you know, like I said, the critics that may think we're crazy for moving this region, they only have this thought because they've got other fear porn artists out there who want to scare you into thinking you have to move to the equator, or they want to scare you into thinking that you have to buy their seeds, or scare you into buying whatever it is that they're selling on their channel. Look, we sell t-shirts. It's advertising. But we're not
that tastes good.
Right. And we're not promising you're going to survive the grand solar minimum if you buy this shirt. It's just to support the channel. It's just to get the message out. It's to help get the conversation started. Someone looks at your shirt and says, GSM, what's that? Oh, here, let me buy you a coffee. I'll tell you all about it. I've caught myself doing things like that, and people give me that, are you crazy look? And then other people actually get intrigued and start discussing back and forth. So for those of you who are concerned about Mari and I's well-being in the Adirondacks, we love you. But just know that Mari and I are very capable and confident in our abilities to adapt and survive. And I think we've thought this one pretty much through. This has been a process that we've been thinking about for over a year now, and we're putting it into motion. So Mari and I have planned this for a while. This is a step in our journey. I'm not saying it's our permanent location, but for the time being, it's going to be our location. So, Henrik, is there anything you'd like to add? I think we're getting ready to wrap it up. I'm actually kind of shocked that our internet, folks, this is a grand record here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. For the first time in a month, our internet has actually stayed on for more than 20 minutes. So, yeah, Henrik, I leave you with the last word, my friend.
Well, please don't do that.
It's late where Henrik is at.
Yeah, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and my girlfriend is getting up in 3/4. So after this, I have to make coffee and go watering the garden. But enough of that. Today, I think we will finish with a smile on the lips, because you have so many great people in your country over there, especially stand-up comedians. Do you know a guy named Trevor Noah?
I've heard the name, yes.
Yeah, you gotta check him out, and that goes not for you, that goes for everybody. You know, he's born in South Africa, His mama is from South Africa, but his daddy is a Swiss guy, so he is pure white. And he was born under the apartheid, so he is born into a crime. And he said, well, his dad was from Switzerland, and they loved chocolate, so he didn't mind, his mama was in prison, because they were together. And then he found out, because he don't, in South Africa, you are not black, you are not white when you are a mix, and he's a mix, so you are nothing. And then he found out someday, a guy told him, well, if you want to be black, you gotta move to USA. And
Wow.
that's what he did. And that's what he did. And I'm telling you, he has so many great stories. Among other, a great story about how he's telling that there will never be an ISIS attack in South Africa. Never, ever, ever, because you cannot leave a suitcase or anything on the street and it would be taken, And he tell this crazy story about a guy who is leaving a suitcase from ISIS, and then he turn around and he hear a big boom, and he turns around and say, "Where's my suitcase? Why the fuck is my suitcase?" And then another guy come by and say, "Well, somebody took it and blew up the ATM." You gotta. He is so fun,
What's his name again?
Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah. All right. Well, we will try to put that in the description link too. I'm definitely going to check him out.
Please do that.
I'm a huge. I love stand-up comedy. My two favorite ones. You talk about someone who's really white. Jim Gaffigan is.
Oh yeah.
He is beyond white. And then you have Mitch Hedberg, rest in peace. He was one of my favorite one-line comedian. He would say things along the lines as, the other day I saw a forklift lift a crate of forks. It was way too literal for me. Just, stupid one-liners like that, But anyway, well, listen, Henrik, we're probably going to have to do a lot of catching up. So I'd like to try to bring you back in again this week and once again on Saturday, because we just have to have our Henrik fill here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. So I'll keep in touch with you. But thank you so much for sticking with us, being patient. I know I told you several times, we're doing a show this week, and then nothing happens. And a lot of that was out of my control. And finally tonight, we finally got that taken care of, fixed right at the I'm telling you guys, 4 minutes before we went live, the internet tech had left the building. So they did a good job tonight, as we have internet full speed ahead. But Henrik, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
No problem. And next time, I can tell you I have something with in the program. NASA has reconstructed a climate map over the last Grand Solar Minimum 400 years ago, called Monte Minimum. And in that, I can tell you what towns and cities in the world would be expected to be affected in the next 30 to 100 years. But again, this was what happens about 400 years ago. And as I have been said so many times, and I probably will say again, there are so many things we don't know about right. Cycles.
That, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's not just a historical data that we have to watch, but we have to watch what's happening right now. There's things that are happening in our oceans that we don't understand. So very good point on that. And I look forward into having that discussion. Send me that link when you get a chance this week, and I'll go over some of that information, and we can have a little discussion about that.
Yes, sir.
All right. Don't you sir me, sir. So,
okay, sir.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you again for tuning in. It's been a pleasure reporting once again. We'll talk soon.